year, when the pandemic made the world pause in its steps, DME Media School, in collaboration with Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia, turned the annual International Academic Conference, ICAN, into the world's first 10-day digital live international conference. Are back with the second edition of ICAN4. I, Ishika Vadva,
I, Hani Khurana.
Students of first year DME Media School extend a heartwarming welcome to one and all present here in the first session of day 6 of ICAN4. We are happy to announce that ICAN4 is supported by the Indian Council of Social Science Research, ICSSR. The theme for this year's conference is Information, Communication, and Artificial Networks, and the hashtag for the conference is Communication Redefined. The former editions of ICAN were not only phenomenally successful, but were pioneering in the level of and depth of engagement with all aspects of media and ancillary subjects. The theme for the first edition of ICAN was India and Changing Aspects of News, while for the second edition, it was Indian cinema and alternate networks. Moreover, for the third edition, it was Issues of Community, Agenda, and News, and the hashtag was Conference for Change.
ICAN4 would not have been possible without the support of our partners. So I express my gratitude towards them. ICAN4 has 4 knowledge partners: KR Mangalam University, Gurugram, Haryana; Adamas University, Kolkata; Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Mass Communication, Bhopal; and Vigyan Prasar, Government of India. ICAN4 has also partnered with Department of Communication and Journalism, Guwahati University, as academic partner. Our international partners are Institute for International Journalism, E.W. Scripps School of Journalism, Ohio University, USA, and our media partner is the Policy Times. I also thank Asian Media and Cultural Studies Network by Sean Redmond and India Fiction and Researchers Network by Dr. Vikrant Kishore. ICAN is a flagship conference of DME Media School and today has made an international name for itself. It's a matter of pride for me to say that ICAN4 has witnessed participation of about 60 eminent academicians and researchers from 5 continents and 11 countries, namely India, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Bangladesh, USA, Mexico, France, Italy, Australia, and Ghana. More than 100 media educators and researchers have gathered to present their papers in the conference. We have a total of 36 live sessions, including 9 technical sessions, 3 workshops, 7 panel discussions, 3 special sessions, and 10 masterclasses. One of the most unique things about ICAN4 is that all the 9 technical sessions are being chaired and co-chaired by a galaxy of intellectual women representing different states of the country.
I would also like to extend my gratitude to the Student Council of the DME Media School, SPARK, Students with Positive Attitude and Resonating Communication. Journalism at DME is the official newsletter of DME Media School. This fortnightly publication covers all the major activities happening in and out the campus. It is a student-centric newsletter carried out entirely by them under the supervision of the faculty members. DME TV, the official YouTube channel of DME, where you can find all the playlists related to all sessions, lecture series, film festival, and conferences. It gives me great pleasure to inform everyone that we are live on our official Facebook page. For more information, follow us on our social media handles. Links are being shared in the chat box. Now, I would like to request Professor Dr. Namreen Saxena, Dean DME Media School, Director DME Studios and Production, Director International Relations, Delhi Metropolitan Education, Noida, to please say a few words.
Thank you, Ishika. I welcome everybody present in this panel. This is a pleasant morning in India. Obviously, this is late evening in the US and afternoon in Australia. But then we all are here assembled, and that's the beauty of this whole digital media, and that's one good thing that has happened during this pandemic, that people from all across the globe, they can join in a session, even despite this different having in different time zones and all. And this is a different kind of panel. We have been having different panels and master classes during the last 5 days. Today is the sixth day, 4 more days to go. But this kind of panel discussion is a little bit different, which has been conceived by Sean Redmond. This is a roundtable discussion, and the subject is also a little bit different. What we have been discussing for the last 5 days, it is about Asian celebrities. So this will be a subject which will be of interest to everybody whosoever is there in the session. So I once again welcome everybody, Sean Redmond, for sparing so much time and thinking about and conceiving this whole session for ICAN4. I also welcome Jian, Rio, and Sojeong to be with us in this session. Thank you all.
Thank you for your wise words, sir. Carrying the session forward to the core, we have a roundtable discussion on Asian celebrity today. In partnership with the Asian Media and Cultural Studies Network, Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. In this roundtable discussion, we'll explore the way Asian celebrity functions, both as national and transnational phenomena, with the focus on Indian, Chinese, Japanese, and South Korean celebrities. Let's find out more about today's panel. We have our esteemed panel chair, Professor Sean Redmond, Deakin University. Sean Redmond is Professor of Screen and Design at Deakin University. He is the author of Celebrity Liquid Space, Science Fiction, Film, and Television in the Digital Age, and the Cinema of Takeshi Kitano, Flowering Blood. He is the founder-editor of Celebrity Studies, shortlisted for Best New Academic Journal in 2011. Now let's meet our other panelist, Ms. Rio Katayama, University of Southern California, East Asian Languages and Cultures. Rio Katayama is a PhD candidate in East Asian Languages and Cultures at the University of Southern California. Her research is in trust, contemporary Japanese and media studies, modern Japanese literature, transnational cinema in East Asia, gender and affect. Her dissertation, tentatively entitled Narrating Bodies, Deconstructing Affective Japan Through Disasters, explore the multi-layered deconstruction of Japanness and its relation to affective bodily responses that are elicted through the depiction of continuous nuclear trauma in Japanese audiovisual. Moving forward, Dr. Vikrant Kishore, Senior Lecturer, Screen and Design, Deakin University, Australia. Dr. Vikrant Kishore is a filmmaker and an academic at Deakin University. Currently, Dr. Kishore has been capturing stories of cultural flows and its impact on Indian diaspora in Australia. Dr. Kishore likes to integrate traditional cultural practices with new media technologies to archive, create digital exposition, collaborate on multimedia exhibitions and festivals. He has authored and edited books on Indian cinema and intangible cultural heritage.
Dr. Sojeong Park, Assistant Research Professor, Department of Communications, Seoul National University. Her research interests include diverse aspects of popular culture and digital culture, with focus on the way identity and intimacy is constructed and mediated by media. She has published several articles in refereed journals, including the Journal of Popular Culture and Celebrity Studies. Dr. Jian is a senior lecturer in the Communication and co-convener of the Asian Media and Cultural Studies Network at Deakin University. Dr. Zhu's research interests include Chinese digital media, digital youth cultures, internet governance, and celebrity studies. Now, I would like to hand over the forum to Professor Sean Redmond. Over to you, sir.
Wow, come on. That was outstanding. Thank you ever so much for that wild and wonderful introduction. That was just brilliant. Wow, come on. I haven't got much left to do now. You've done all my work. Thank you so much, though. I really appreciate it. But wow, I feel welcomed and warmed. Thank you. As mentioned, this is a roundtable on contemporary Asian celebrity. and it's divided into two parts. The first part is 5-minute individual presentations, and the second part is a dialogue between the panelists. So we'll obviously go through part A and then on to part B. At the end of the 5-minute presentation, so there'll be a chance for a Q&A, so we really would like your questions. So store them up, but we won't take them after each presentation, but at the end. And the order is Rio, then Jian, then Sojeong, and then Vikrant. So that's the order. So with no further ado, but with a great deal of excitement, I'll hand it over to Rio. Good luck, Rio.
Thank you. Let me start sharing my screen. Can you see my slides? Thank you for the introduction, and thank you so much, Sean, for inviting me to this exciting panel today. I'm honored to be a part of the discussion with you all. So before my presentation begins, I like to mention that we have a newborn in the house, and although he has been taken care of by my partner right now, I apologize in advance if you hear him whining in the background. Thank you so much for your patience. Okay, so in my presentation, I like to briefly sum up the main points that highlight economy and politics of Japanese celebrity and idol culture. In the Japanese show business, there are three parties that hold immense power over its economy: the talent agency, or in Japanese called jimusho, advertising sponsors and agencies, and major television networks. So if a talent acts in a way that violates the contract with their agency, he or she could be driven out of show business altogether. And here I should mention that there is no union for entertainers in Japan. Thus, it's very difficult to claim their right against the will of talent agencies. As for the second and third point, the power of advertising sponsors and the Japanese major networks are closely intertwined. This is because the finances of the TV networks are heavily dependent on the sponsors that pay for advertising slots. The income that comes from advertising cannot be taken lightly by either the talent agency or the celebrity, as these advertising fees may constitute a large portion of the talent's income. And because the streaming services have yet to be largely distributed in Japan, the Japanese entertainers heavily depend on the visibility of major television networks. That's why celebrities need to care a great deal about their advertising deals and how they appear on television. These three parties that hold economic power influence politics of the Japanese show business as well. Consequently, the advertisement agencies, corporations, talent agency, and celebrity themselves prefer to avoid potential risks that could precipitate the termination of advertising contracts. The reasons for the violation include drug-related issues, relationship entanglements, and making political comments. This phenomenon of risk management has led to the self-restrained content of the TV programs, as the producers prefer talents that seem safe and apolitical. This tendency to prefer apolitical talent owes to the Japanese governmental system of holding the authority to give guidance and permission to private corporations. Therefore, corporations tend to stay away from celebrities who may potentially interfere with the government's interest or the corporation's brand image. While many celebrities in Hollywood brand themselves with political flair, majority of Japanese celebrities remain silent on any political subject for that reason. And here I would like to mention that the prominence of idol culture in Japan is closely related to the aforementioned politics of the show business. The idol business in Japan has flourished since 1970s, and the profit of the idol business surpassed $1 billion as of 2016. Idols in Japanese terms are not necessarily expected to be skilled at performing, but rather they are packaged to attract fans through their personality and characters. Therefore, consumers or fans' affect towards celebrities or idols must be maintained by the related parties controlling their clean image. The conservative nature of idols makes them more marketable for media exposure. Previously, the Japanese idols were marketed predominantly towards the national market, but reflecting the recent K-pop domination in Asia or Western music scenes, there have been more intimate crossovers between the K-pop industry and the Japanese music industry. We observe more Japanese performers, both male and female, who speak fluent Korean in Korean idol groups. Their visibility in the Korean music scene has influenced the changes in expectations of what idol is among the Japanese audiences as well. So I would like to discuss more about transnationalism later in the roundtable discussion. And I think I'll wrap up my presentation here. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you ever so much, Ria. That's beautiful and timely and excellent. I've already got some questions, but I'll leave them till a bit later. Thank you ever so much. That was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
All right, Jian, you're next. Good luck.
Thank you, Sean, for organizing the panel, and thank you everyone for joining today's roundtable. Let me share my slides first. So I can't find my slides. So what happened? Oh, got it. Sorry. So can you see my slides now? Okay. Today I'm going to talk about the celebrity politics in China with a particular focus on the governing issue of entertainment celebrities in China. The Chinese Communist Party has a long tradition of utilizing mass entertainment to mobilize and educate the public to fulfill its political and ideological purposes. And entertainment celebrities are the most important players in mass entertainment industries. They are expected by the Chinese Communist Party to pursue professional excellence and moral integrity, and therefore require constant guidance and regulation and supervision from the government. The governance of entertainment celebrities has become an important part of the party's cultural governance since 2005 because of the dramatic rise of entertainment celebrities, such as the reality show stars and internet celebrities. In this project, I concluded 4 governing strategies used by the Chinese Communist Party to regulate entertainment celebrities. The first one is banning celebrities, which is often used as an extra legal means to prohibit stars and artists from gaining public attention if they breach legal or ethical obligations or openly express politically incorrect viewpoints. The ban notice is usually internally distributed top-down from one or more central government organizations that regulate China's cultural production and ideological work to the state-funded media, commercial music apps, online video platforms, internet portals, social media sites, film production companies, and so on. The second measure is to govern through professional associations, laws, and various regulations. To name a few, the Federation of Literary and Art Circles established its professional ethics promotion committee at both central and local levels and launched campaigns to raise the ideological and moral level of the artists. In the film industry promotion law implemented in 2017, it stipulates that the film industry should enhance ethics education. Actors and directors should pursue both professional excellence and moral integrity, obey laws and regulations, respect social morality, abide by professional ethics, enhance self-discipline, and establish a positive public image. The third measure is platform governance. Because television produces the most reality show stars and the digital platforms produce the most internet celebrities, the government has been tightening the regulations of TV entertainment as well as live streaming performance by issuing various notices and regulations, pushing the platforms to self-censor their content and forcing these grassroots celebrities to self-regulate their own performance and persona on this platform. The fourth measure is to co-opt stars for propaganda innovation. For example, to crack down some rappers, but promote some state-endorsed rappers, reinventing the hip-hop culture from the West to serve the party propaganda and attract more young people to pay attention to the state propaganda content. Here, I have no time to explain this point in detail. So the conclusion of my research is that the increasing governance of entertainment celebrities in China has caused the formation of the neoliberal subjectivity of Chinese celebrities. This subjectivity allows Chinese entertainment celebrities to meticulously navigate the complex trade-off between neoliberal market ideology and partyology in order to maintain success and profit in China's market-oriented but party-controlled entertainment and cultural industry. Thank you.
That was outstanding, Jian. Thank you so much. Really thought-provoking. I've got lots of questions too, but we'll leave those for a bit. Thank you. So next up is Sojeong, I think. So a warm welcome, Sojeong. Jian, you just got to stop sharing your screen. All right, a warm welcome. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for having me today. I'm going to talk about the Korean stardom in terms of nationality and ethnicity. As a cultural studies scholar, I am specifically interested in popular culture in South Korea, and recently I'm delving into the meaning of K in Korean popular culture. And today I'm focusing on K-pop star and talk about how the meaning of K works in K-pop. I guess many of you have heard of K-pop. It also appeared on Ms. Katayama's talk. After K-pop gained popularity among the overseas audience, many cultural content produced in Korea has been labeled as K something, such as K cinema, K beauty, K drama, K comics, and etc. And accordingly, the journalists and scholars have started to question about this K, especially in terms of K-pop. What exactly does this K mean? Literally and obviously, K means Korea, K-pop is Korean pop. However, it does not mean Korean traditional pop, and K-pop actually has a very hybridized form of hip-hop, European electric music, and Japanese music, etc. And furthermore, K-pop industry nowadays try to appeal to global audience. And the most common strategy to target global market is to make a multinational group, which incorporates foreign members such as Japanese, Chinese, or Korean American. And in Korean, we call this 다국적 group, and it has been used commonly in promoting K-pop stars because it implies something global. The term gives audience the impression that they are not just a local star, but more like a transnational and global star. And in fact, multinational groups have more chances to become a global star because some of the members can speak other languages, especially English. However, if you see these pictures here, can you recognize that they are multinational group? Can you discern any ethnic or racial diversity in these pictures? I think probably no. Among 20 people in these 3 pictures, 3 came from Japan, 2 from Thailand, and 5 respectively from Taiwan, Hong Kong, United States, Australia, and New Zealand. However, regardless of their actual nationalities, their appearances are quite homogenized into the so-called K-pop style. According to unofficial statistics made by K-pop fans, 190 K-pop stars came from abroad. I don't know the total number of the K-pop stars, so, but I think this number accounts for a very small part of total K-pop stars. But as far as I observe, most of the top tier K-pop groups have a couple of Korean members. So what we can recognize from this statistic is that they are mostly from Northeastern Asian countries or North American countries. And I can say that most of the members from the United States, Canada, or Australia are the ones who were born in those countries, but by Korean parents, and only few of them are half Korean. So Korean K-pop stars generally look like Korean or East Asian or Korean with a slight of Western features. So, and these quotations are from Quora, where users ask and answer on a variety of issues, and there are a lot of questions regarding the qualification of K-pop star, and many of them have suspicious attitudes toward whether people who are not ethnically Northeastern Asian and have tanned skin can become a K-pop star. Before COVID-19, there were growing numbers of K-pop global auditions held in different countries around the world. So there were more opportunities for non-Koreans to pursue their dreams to become a K-pop star. But this does not mean that the opportunities are given equally to all kinds of ethnicities. Last year, a female K-pop group with a Black member has made their debut for the first time in K-pop history, but this group has not been really noticed by audience yet. And then we can now see the paradox of multinational K-pop group. The term multinational used in K-pop industry does not actually indicate multinational. The Korean member of the K-pop group should look like Korean or at least Asian with a bright skin color. So K-pop stars should become a quasi-Koreans. So they should embody and perform Koreanness to become a K-pop star. So K in K-pop does not necessarily indicate Korean nationality, and K-pop actually pursues to become globalized. However, K indicates Koreanness, especially in terms of visuality. So while many people talk about the cultural hybridity of K-pop or K-pop stars, this hybridity is confined to at most Asian region, and actually K-pop stars show a homogenized visuality. Recently in Korean drama, the ethnicity of actors has become more and more diversified. As Korean society has this strong belief in homoethnic society, the Korean stars are usually mobilized to add some exotic mood to the story. However, more and more content are incorporating them as a member of Korean society. And I think their appearances itself matters in Korean mediascape, because stars and celebrities are the ones who embody social values, and they are the medium to deliver certain ideas to the public. So consider that so far K-pop has been sometimes criticized for its nationalism and colorism. So I think it's time for Korean music industry and star system to think over the meaning of diversity, hybridity, or the multinational or the multicultural. So that's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Sojeong. That was outstanding as well, deeply thought-provoking and just beautifully illustrated. Wow, thank you again. Right, last speaker of the part A is the wonderful Vikrant. So over to you, Vikrant. Good luck.
Thanks, Sean. I'll probably take a minute extra because I have a longer presentation. So I'll be talking about Bollywood's celebrity today, and just giving you a kind of an overview of how it is shaped or what you see today. So Bollywood is a brand name for the mainstream Indian cinema that has dominated the imagination of the South Asian film-going audiences for more than a century now. Over the years, Indian cinema has fueled the imagination of audiences across the world and has created myths, stars, fans, uh, particular, trend, style, legends, and icon. And well, I need to go to the next. And with the advent of talkies, star culture started dominating Indian cinema. The 1930s witnessed the rise of stars such as Devi Karani, Fearless Nadia, Jahan Rakajjan, Master Nisar, Ashok Kumar, and all, who received immense public adulation and following that immediately were exploited for commercial ends. So by the 1940s, one saw the rise of first Indian transnational film star, Raj Kapoor, who acquired immense popularity in the then USSR and other communist countries for his films, which championed the cause of socialism mostly. So Anubhav Roy points out how Raj Kapoor and Nargis's film Awara became a huge hit in the Russian and communist countries in the Eastern Bloc. And many Russian parents chose to name their newborns after their screen names. Raj Kapoor's star power helped solidify the growing relationship between India and the USSR in the 1950s. But by late 1960s, what one saw that Bollywood star component became much more important than the film itself. The image of the star was exploited not only for the marketing of film, but beyond that, to market and strengthen the star persona, be it socially or politically. So Ashish Nandi finds that the Indian stars have turned into a commodity for sale, not just limited to film stars, add to the spectacle in films and beyond. Indian politicians utilized film stars for the election campaign, the Indian government for the social outreach, and business class for the product endorsements. The popularity, reach, and impact that the Indian film stars have is second to none and are often looked upon for the views on various issues, be it politics, social, economic, diplomatic, or religious. But of course, this can be and have been fractious. So a few scholars, such as Rachel Dwyer, observes that the admiration and affection of audience towards Bollywood stars outnumbered their reverence and veneration for the Hindu gods, thus terming it as a darshan or worship of the film stars. Many of film stars, especially from southern India, have temples dedicated to them. This extreme form of darshan is also metamorphosed in turning a star into a politician or larger than life, be it Amitabh Bachchan, Rajnikant, Jayalalitha, Hema Malini, Kamal Hassan, N.T. Rama Rao, to name a few. The Indian fan culture is unparalleled but understudied, especially in relation to the celebrity culture, and this area certainly requires attention. So in recent years, celebrity culture has seen a phenomenal rise spurred by the social media. As Naya says, this celebrification has created interminable demand and consumption of celebrities, and thus constructs a spectacle around anything and everything that celebrities are involved in. Also, this creates a kind of a multi-platform link. The biggest example of this celebrification and spectacle in recent years is megastar Shah Rukh Khan. His on-screen romantic persona, anti-hero image, stint as a TV host, or his extended links from cricket, film production to brand ambassador of multiple production and companies. Khan's multifarious personality and multi-platform links makes him a global celebrity. This global celebrity status of Khan is also helped by the kind of philanthropic work that he accomplishes via his non-profit organization. Similarly, celebrities like Amir Khan, Priyanka, Amitabh Bachchan, Salman Khan, Aishwarya, and many others are known for this philanthropic work, as well as taking on the role of brand ambassador for many international humanistic and social organizations. This amalgamation of celebrity with philanthropy requires further study to assess the relation, if it is just for a cause or for the cause of celebrity image that one needs to retain. Another growing aspect is the role of celebrity as an activist. This area also requires scholastic attention, and this has been in controversy lately quite a lot. Another important factor what we talk about, and in fact it impacts us, the diasporic people. The growing Indian diaspora across the world has created a huge fandom, and the consumption of Indian film celebrities, Bollywood song and dance, and fashion inspired by Bollywood, thus helping turn Bollywood culture as a soft diplomatic power. Understanding the social construct of Indian films, Chaudhary opines, through the use of their stars, traditionals, and rituals, Bollywood films feed the non-resident Indians a nostalgia for their motherland. The fantasies associated with the stars and the possibilities of their darshan in the foreign lands have witnessed a phenomenal growth of programs that features Indian films celebrities. The stars, many fading ones, charge astonishing amount for a performance or a meet and greet session. So the highlight of these meet and greets is certainly a selfie with the star, for which the guests are happy to pay any amount. Thus, this area of interconnectedness of celebrities with the fans and the commercial interrelation creates a new space for celeb-fan interaction, and another area that requires further studies and reassessment of the star culture, from changing perspective of darshan or worship to the possibility of rubbing shoulders with the stars. This I term as proximity, or in Hindi, samipya, to the celebrities, which leads the fan to briefly imagine and flaunt their status as someone close to the celebrities, thus attributing a certain identity creation and status conferral for themselves within their own online social circle. So what I would say that, just to wrap up, what we see that the star celebrity culture in the times of social media has become huge. You see, like I would say, Sonu Sood is one of the examples who played villain in films lately, but because of his social work during the COVID-19 pandemic, made him a national hero. So, of course, I find there is a huge resource to study celebrity culture in India. It is understudied and underdeveloped. It needs a focus on the study of Indian popular mainstream films. It is a growing field that requires attention, which is the online presence, celebrity engagement via online media and online fandom, and also an understanding of the Indian celebrities' connection with the Indian diasporic communities is required. And online world is creating its own set of celebrities. So another kind of an aspect to really delve into. And celebrity star status in the new online world order has a very limited shelf life. I'll end with that. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Vikrant. That was remarkably strong and beautifully illustrated. My heart skipped a beat when you showed that image of Shah Rukh Khan. He is a man god, and I'll have no criticism here today about him. They were 4 wonderful presentations. Thank you. This is the time for questions. Sachin, I'm not sure how we're going to do this, whether you can help me sort of moderate if people are wanting to ask questions, whether it's best to raise a hand or to put it into chat. I don't know what you think.
So I have got a few questions. So we can either take the audience questions first or the questions you were referring to earlier, which you had.
Oh no, we'll go audience first, if you don't mind.
Oh, definitely.
Right,
so the first question is about few of our students are curious about, for example, the Chinese entertainment industry was mentioned, and they're very curious. One big question coming is, Sir mentioned about this neoliberal space. Now, it's very easy in a conventional media space to control dissent, to control questioning, to control any independent expression. The Chinese media must also evolve along with the rules of the government. So the question is, are there any dissenting spaces at all? Of course, there cannot be any outright spaces, but every time, for example, some artists take form of satire, or they don't directly name anybody. In Chinese media, are there any dissenting spaces? First question. And the second question, of course, that how does curtailing of dissent occur in a space as dynamic as the new media landscape?
Yeah, fantastic question. Sorry, over to you, Jian.
Hi, I'm sorry, I think I missed the second question about new media. So, so could you repeat the second question? I got the first one.
Second question being that it's easy to control conventional media. You can gag a television, you can stop a newspaper from speaking. But despite the heavy regulation of social media, even in the Chinese landscape, how has it that they cannot keep the conventional gags? If the dissent has to evolve, the curtail of dissent also has to evolve. So how do they do that? Despite these spaces where people can speak out, they still manage to evolve with the curtailment. So how does that space evolve? How do these both spaces interact?
Okay, thank you for the 2 very interesting, very great questions. For the first question, I think in China, because I have written a few papers about the celebrity politics in China, I call Chinese celebrities powerless elites. It means their power is really limited comparing with the power of celebrities in the West, because they are controlled by the government, because the government controls the media and also the cultural industries, film production industries. If they are banned by the central government, it means they will lose all the opportunities to make profit in the business. And it's actually quite unlikely for them to fight back, because their power is really limited and they have to obey the rules and policies of the made by the party state. If they're banned, and it is quite uncertain that when they can come back to the public stage, because it's totally depends on the decision of the government organizations. It's not something that could be decided by themselves. So what they can do is to do more philanthropy and charity work to rebuild their public image and to look for possible opportunities to come back to the public vision. In terms of the second question, I think everyone knows or have heard about China's Great Firewall to control the social media landscape and the internet cyberspace. And in China, it's not possible to get access to popular Western social media platforms, but instead we have our homegrown social media platforms, short video sharing platforms, and live streaming platforms, but they are all censored and controlled. So I should say, comparing with the state-controlled mainstream media like newspaper and television and radio, the cyberspace is relatively freer than the traditional media landscape, but it is still tightly controlled by the government. And it is not possible to have this kind of outcry or some dissident voices in the cyberspace. And if there are some, it will be quickly deleted or blocked by the censors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I don't think we could not have asked for a more comprehensive answer. So, so the next question is about Bollywood. So the question is that now, since the past few years, we have a new kind of a celebrity. And again, there are two questions about these celebrities. First, we have these actors who have made a name for themselves without having the conventional star profile, like somebody like a Nawazuddin Siddiqui, or these new actors who have come up. Like recently, there was this actor who got famous in the series Family Man. So the question for Vikrant sir is, are we heading towards a new era of a celebrity? Does the old, the Rajesh Khanna era or the Amitabh Bachchan, will we have another Amitabh Bachchan? Will we have another Rajesh Khanna? Or have we had a paradigm shift in terms of who exactly is a celebrity?
Well, in India's circumstance, I think we still like to hang on to our stars. Okay. So if the question is, will we have another Rajesh Khanna? I would say Shah Rukh Khan has, outlived all the superstars. Okay. Or Salman Khan, like his resurgence. So if you look at the recent, the kind of trends in stardom, of course, it remains in the same trajectory. It hasn't moved. But what has happened that now the online space is throwing up new celebrities every day and OTT platforms. Okay. And as I said in my presentation also, that there will be lots of celebrities around. It is always about the discussion around how much shelf life these celebrities will have. So having a kind of a celebrity for, being a toast of that year and then forgotten. And I can, take 20 names in last 20 years who became celebrity, and then now you don't even remember. And then suddenly you say, oh, wow, that guy was there and he was popular, 2 films or 2 songs or 2 this thing, and then they are gone. So still, I think, traditional cinema gives a longer lifespan. Once you are, Indian audience always like their, to root for their stars. Okay, and there is a certain kind of a status of stars, because they represent a certain style, a certain kind of acting, or certain kind of representation and on screen. So today, even if you look at, though there is a big change happening in terms of the kind of consumption that people are doing. And I wanted to show one slide. Yeah, can I just share the screen?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So this I found very interesting. Okay, this is types of influencers who endorsed products were purchased across India in October 2020. Across India by age group. Okay, so there are people who are actually consuming things bit of put in by Instagram influencer, okay, or YouTuber. It's growing. Okay, so if you look at the YouTubers actually occupying at the age group of 16 to 24, occupying the maximum percentage, 61%. 25 to 34, you look at YouTubers, 62%. 35 to 44%, 54%. Okay, so you see the YouTubers kind of, the celebrity YouTubers are really dominating. But actors remain a kind of a constant in most of these places. But yet there is also a kind of a question around how many of these actors are, actively involved in online space. Not many. In fact, yesterday only, because I was trying to do a kind of a comparison of actors and their Twitter, Twitter followers. And Amir Khan has deactivated his Twitter account, and he keeps on activating and deactivating. So his account doesn't move. But Amitabh Bachchan, one of the oldest, film stars in his 70s, has the maximum number of following in India. So you see those kind of like he at 45 million followers, and then and Shah Rukh Khan at around 30 million followers. There's a huge gap between Shah Rukh Khan and Amitabh Bachchan, or Hrithik Roshan at 13 million or 28 million or something like that. So even if you look at those kind of trends, you see that, and you look at the new YouTubers and the kind of subscription, you still feel that the traditional film stars gain that ground, but new YouTubers or Instagram influencers, they will keep coming. But if you look at another thing, that the face of these YouTubers and Instagrammers change every year. Not one single person is dominating that field for more than 2 years. And that is the problem or that is an issue, that a film star, the shelf life, established film star can have a shelf life of more than 10 years. A YouTuber or Instagrammer, more than 2 years, wow, I will say that's a great thing.
Thank you so much, Vikrant sir. We actually have one more question for you, but before that, you actually opened up this very relevant point of discussion, which I think will actually, I'll bet better if I take a question about K-pop. You talked about shelf life, and I don't remember the source of this, but there was this quotation about how Michael Jackson was the last famous man alive, because with the coming of new media, there are new celebrities everywhere. So the question is for K-pop stars, that despite so many celebrities cropping up, they have had this amazing fan following, which actually I think is very relevant to the discussion. And I think I can even quote many of our students. They all consider, they're such big fans of BTS ARMY, and their kind of influence they have over charities, and they often give away popular opinion. What exactly is it about them? This is for panelists discussing K-pop stars that has made them relevant in both new media and conventional media, despite such competition in terms of attention and space.
That's for you, Sojeong.
I think I missed the question. So
the question being, one of the students, we have many students who follow BTS and many K-pop stars. So the question they have is, I'm just taking this discussion from Vikrant sir's discussion about shelf life, but despite so many spaces, stars, small celebrities occupying digital space, K-pop stars, or even for example, BTS has occupied primacy among them. What is it about them in terms of the space they occupy, the kind of performances they do, that has given them such a fandom?
you mean in terms of new media?
Yes.
I'm not sure I got your question right, but You mean the competition competition of kind of fandom in the new media?
Yes.
I think that is the kind of dynamics we can see in terms of the transnational stars. This kind of thing did not happen about like at least 20 years ago, but nowadays the social media is connecting the fandom across the nations, and they are providing the spaces to speak out whatever they want to. So I think this is a kind of dynamics that keeps the transnational flow of celebrity culture, and especially for K-pop stars. As far as I remember, the period that K-pop stars has been recognized by global audience was about early 2010s, or to be more accurate, like 2012. So when the Psy made a big hit on the YouTube. So for now, I can say that this K-pop is mostly based on the online space. So how much a portion they have on the online space determines their popularity abroad. Yeah.
Thank you, Sojeong. That was a great answer. I've got a question for you, actually. Just now you're there. I was just thinking about lightness, skin tone, whiteness. Have you thought about sort of race and ethnicity and whiteness in relation to K-pop?
Yes, actually, my core research question was about the whiteness. It started from the whiteness. So it is obvious that all the K-pop stars has a white skin, and the in the media production system, they become more whiter because of the lighting system and the post-production system. And this is some kind of very core aesthetic of K-pop. But what I argue about this issue is that it is not actually related to the hegemony of whiteness coming from the West. So some people, I heard that there are very interesting debate about the whiteness of K-pop in social media, like in Twitter. The international fans of K-pop say that it is whitewashing because BTS said love yourself, but the fans deny it and make very white images of K-pop stars. So they are denouncing this kind of whitewashing practice. But other international fans, including Korean fans, say that this is not whitewashing. Actually, this is kind of one of the aesthetic of the East Asian. Like when you take a picture with a smartphone camera application, it's just very white images. So it is kind of that kind of aesthetic, and we are not mimicking the whiteness of Western people. So I think this whiteness of K-pop should be understood more in terms of like orderless, like we do not have we cannot pinpoint the nationality, even though I said it is more like a Koreanness and East Asianness, but the visual they pursue is getting out of certain nationality. So they want to look like unique, and the whiteness is one of the aesthetic they choose to look like that.
Wow, what a wonderful answer. That's brilliantly done. Thank you. Rio, is there any sort of application of that to Japanese pop stars in terms of skin tone and color?
Actually, I wanted to mention about Naomi Osaka. She's a tennis player. She's not a pop star or anything like that, but they made a manga out of her stardom, and they made the skin color really light. And she made a comment that that's not what I want. So they remade the manga. So then, like, when Japanese people claim Naomi Osaka as Japanese, they may want to make her look a little bit more white than what she really is. And it's interesting because her identity is really transnational. She has Haitian father and Japanese mother, but she speaks predominantly English. But then whenever we are at international setting, Japanese media try to make her speak Japanese as well. And it just makes her feel a little bit uncomfortable. And then she ends up saying, can we just, like talk in English? So it's like, whiteness as well, but also language. When we try to add the national flair, language whiteness could be an issue as well.
Brilliant. What a great example. I didn't know that about the manga. I have to check that out. That's fascinating. Jian, I had not a question, but the only person I could think of, and I know it's not the same, who resists Chinese nationalism, Chinese censorship is Ai Weiwei, the artist. I know he's predominantly based outside of China, but he was imprisoned in China for a while. Have you got anything to say on those sorts of, I know there's different types of persona. They exist in the art sphere, but that would be an example I can think of.
Actually, in my PhD project, I had a chapter on China's citizen journalism, and in that chapter, I analyzed two documentaries produced by Weiwei, because I took the documentary as a kind of citizen journalistic practices. And my knowledge on his artistic work is limited. As I know, a few years ago, he was banned in China, refused to enter into China, but he still has some visibilities on, Western social media, like Twitter. I'm not sure if he has Facebook, but I think after being banned for a while, his influence in mainland China was significantly reduced compared to his influence, I think 10 years ago. Yeah.
Good answer. Thank you. Back to you, Sachin. Any other questions for our panelists?
Yes, sir. One of our professors, Manmeet ma'am, has asked in relevance of our students who are interested in K-pop and Korean dramas about what are the various avenues for for researchers, for young researchers in terms of fandom. What are the various avenues that they can deliberate upon in their research?
I think that's for you, Sojeong, and possibly you, Ria.
I'm sorry, I'm terrible at understanding Indian accent. Can you say that again, please?
Definitely, no worries. So one of our professors wanted to ask this for our young students who are interested in K-pop and Korean culture. What are the various avenues for research in terms of fandom?
Avenues for fandom studies. I think K-beauty. K-beauty might be a new avenue for fandom, and it has some very interesting kind of negotiations or power struggles are going on in terms of K-beauty scene. So when you type K-beauty on the YouTube, you can see not just the Koreans, but all kinds of other ethnicity. All the people with other ethnicities are showing the makeup tutorial, and they are putting on K-pop style, K-beauty style on their face, and they are appropriating this kind of K-beauty style into their own style. So this kind of cultural appropriation is happening in this K-beauty scene. And there we can see a lot of K-beauty fans are discussing about if this goes well with this race or not. And especially in terms of Black people, as I mentioned, this whiteness is kind of aesthetic in K-pop, and it is also important in K-beauty, but Black K-pop fans or K-beauty fans are discussing about whether it is appropriate to adopt a K-beauty when K-beauty pursues whiteness. So this kind of discussion is going on in K-beauty. So besides K-pop or K-drama, K-beauty is kind of rising avenue for the discussion.
Great. Ria, have you got any thoughts on that?
Sure. So I'm interested in like how K-pop impacts on the relationship between the countries. So for instance, when the Japanese performer from Twice made a comment about changing era in Japan, she got bashed because some people related to emperor changing, and they were like, what do what are you thinking mentioning emperor? Although she didn't mention emperor, she was just saying change of era. But that kind of impact is caused by the historical friction and understanding between two countries. So I think that there's not only applies to the relation between Japan and Korea, but also applies to any other countries, because there are many foreign performers in Korea right now. So I'm kind of interested in that kind of phenomenon in fandom as well.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I don't know, Vikrant or Jian, you've got anything on, I know it's not the same question, but whether you've thought about fandom in relation to Chinese celebrity or Indian celebrity in terms of new research that might be done.
Yeah, I think there's both K-pop and Chinese cinema have been very popular in India, especially when we say Chinese, generally it has been the Hong Kong cinema, the martial arts based Hong Kong cinema. And Bruce Lee being my favorite as well, right from childhood, I followed Bruce Lee. But it will be interesting to see some kind of Indian work on the impact of Bruce Lee and the way gyms, every gym I remember during my teenage years would have a poster of Bruce Lee, So Bruce Lee, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, these were the kind of gym poster boys at that point of time. I don't know if it has changed or not. But yeah, and Chow Yun-fat, Donnie Yen, even other stars like Zhang Zi. Now, these are the kind of stars who appeal to the Indian audience as well, and there was a kind of a huge consumption. And now the K-pop is a big kind of export from Korea, and it kind of it has been impacting Indian audience as well. So what are the aspirations? And I haven't been to India or followed that, but through my nephews and nieces, what I hear that they are huge fans of K-pop. So, and I want to see, and this is another thing, is that how Indian music videos or Bollywood films are using some of the styles, dance movements in their own, settings. There is lots of kind of movement or inspiration or plagiarism or adaptation, what you call, in Bollywood song and dance or Indian music videos. So how much of the impact K-pop has on all these things, I would be interested to study that, and also to ask students to look into that, especially the ones who are interested in understanding these kind of cross-cultural flows.
I think there's a chapter in Gina Marchetti's edited collection from a while back about, I think it's Chinese Americans who were consuming Bruce Lee in the early 70s. I'm pretty sure that's right. I might have slightly misremembered, but if I'm right, it's a brilliant chapter. That's such a great history. I can see you in the gym working out to Bruce Lee there, Vikrant. Jian, any thoughts on that? It was wonderful, though. Thank you.
I think in terms of fandom, I'd like to mention that fandom nationalism in China, I think that's an interesting point for research. Because in recent years, the Chinese government has been promoting its homegrown idol groups to compete with Korean wave and Japanese pop culture on young Chinese people, because they just want to make the young people to follow the homegrown idol produced by Chinese companies, not the overseas pop bands. So in the cyberspace and on social media, and you can see their online debate and fight between the fans of the homegrown idol groups and the fans of like BTS and some other Korean pop bands and Japanese pop bands. I think it's very interesting to look at this kind of nationalist fandom. So in the process of transnational pop culture and celebrity flows. Yeah.
Brilliant. Vikrant.
Yeah, hi, Sean. I forgot to mention, of course, this contribution of Jackie Chan to foster that India co-collaborations between India. And he did 2 films. One I can recall is Myth, and there was another film which had Sonu Sood in it. I'm forgetting the name of the film. But those collaborations between Indo-China collaboration, which probably in Jackie Chan's superstardom, it really worked. But when an Indo-China collaboration with Akshay Kumar doing a very, lackluster kind of a film called Chandni Chowk to China with lots of Chinese stars in it, yet it bombed, disastrously because it was a terribly made film. But then also looking at Amir Khan's, whole strategy of tapping onto the Chinese market and the kind of, he also utilizes that kind of Indian sensibility and the Indian traditional values along with the Chinese traditional values and understanding of family. And those are the kind of films he pitches. So today, if 3 Idiots or Secret Superstar have been a big popular films in China, those also needs the kind of an understanding of fandom of Indian cinema or Amir Khan cinema in China, and vis-a-vis Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee kind of fandom in India, which is huge.
Wow, that was brilliant. I didn't know all that either. Thank you. Sachin, any more questions then from the panel?
One more question about the K-pop fandom. One aspect of fandom, the fandom toxicity, I think a part of social media everywhere in terms of online trolling and everything. So does fandom toxicity has an impact on the global culture? And does it actually affect the Asian celebrities in Europe?
Wow, that's a good question. So fandom and toxicity. Rio, any thoughts on that and about how it might flow back out? Or Sojeong, Rio? It's okay.
I'm not sure I can answer that.
It's a difficult one. I guess another way to phrase it might be a slightly different question is, do you think toxicity is on the rise? Hate speech, trolling, and is it? And it's a bit of a rhetorical question because I know we know the answer. But how gendered is it as well? Any thoughts on that in relation to both, say, Korea and Japan? So Ria or Sojeong.
Okay, I feel like anti-fandom and fandom are like 2 sides of the same coin because they are emotionally invested in celebrities, but in a different way. And I see more trolling online, especially people spend more time online. They spend more time at home during pandemic. But it's just, it has been kind of consistent. These people, I don't see the group growing. It's more like, it seems like there is like same group of people always writing similar things. So I guess it's kind of like a fandom, but it's, as I said, it's just like whether you like it or don't like it, you're still investing.
Oh, that's a great answer. You're absolutely right about that. Thank you. Mirrors. Anything from you, Sojeong, on that?
In terms of COVID-19 context, because K-pop stars are Asians and there is hate toward Asians are growing in Western countries and especially in the US. So I don't have answer for this, but I've just started to curious about how this pandemic has affected fandom or anti-fandom of K-pop stars in terms of their ethnicity over race. So this might be another interesting issue about the fandom and race.
Oh, that's good. I better say then, just to foreground, Bertha Chin, Crystal Abedin, and Nandana Bosi, and I've forgotten the other person. They've got a special edition coming out on that, on ethnicity, race, celebrity, and COVID. It'll be out in Celebrity Studies, I think, next year. It followed a panel we did last year. I've just forgotten. Jian, have I forgotten somebody in that list? I'm a bit worried. I don't know.
I think you got all the names.
I think I have.
Yeah. You didn't miss anyone.
All right. Thank you. Anything from Vikrant or Jian on that question of toxicity and anti-fandom, hate, trolling, etc.? You don't have to. Just wondered if you got thoughts from your own perspectives.
Yeah, with Indian perspective, it is growing. It is growing in terms of a very nationalistic mindset. And like last year, there was a huge case of one of the Bollywood actors, Sushant Singh Rajput, who allegedly committed suicide, and there was a conspiracy theory which is still circulating about him being murdered and things like that. And suddenly Bollywood, the term Bollywood became a kind of a thing, a no-go zone, and people started, online, they started boycotting anything to do with Bollywood. So lots of people started saying that you can't use Bollywood, it's a trash thing and things like that. And there was a huge onslaught, which still till date continues. But I still, prefer having Bollywood because it's a brand name, it's an international name. People in the West understand that. But in India, there has been a kind of a friction. Also, in one of my slides, I talked about the activism. Bollywood stars coming out as activism. And now with the government high-handedness and the right-wing nationalism, and there might be people who might disagree with me, but there is a huge, huge kind of problem in India where any Bollywood stars who raise their voice or, try to side with any activism things in a democratic structure to express their point of view, they are muffled. And not only muffled, but also with a kind of a risk, which Jian talks about, in China about state censorship, that if you go out and do something like that, then all your productions will be stopped. So lots of superstars are quiet now because, and in fact, I was reading one of the interviews yesterday by Vishal Bhardwaj, a noted filmmaker of India. And he says, if Shah Rukh Khan and Amir Khan are quiet in India today, it is not because they are weak or they are scared of the government or anyone, but they are scared that because of them, 300 people who are, dependent on their work and the kind of money that they bring in together, that will impact them and that it will kill off that particular structure. So there are so many things of this, the structure of production, distribution, and the money which comes in, and a celebrity status. Where do they, cross that line? Because earlier they could cross the line without being, getting any backlash. Today, the backlash is not only at one front. There are online trolling who will be there after their life forever. There are like armies of trolls, paid trolls, who will go on for years. For one mistake they did about 10 years back, they will keep on following them because they are being paid to do that. So that's a kind of a huge concern and a problem. And when you say toxicity, it is worse than that. It is worse than that. It is terrible at the moment, what I see.
That's a powerful answer. I know you're worried about things, so thank you. And you're right, I suppose that is different. I hadn't thought of that angle, that trolling isn't just, I totally agree with Rio, but about the yin and the yang, the two sides of the same coin. But now that there are industries to produce trolls to undermine a particular discourse or celebrity, that is a radical transformation. Governments employing trolls to undermine an activist. That is an interesting and concerning turn, I guess, in terms of discourse and flow. Wow, powerful stuff, Vikrant. Look, I don't know if it's all right if we move on now, Sachin. This would be part B, and there'll be some perhaps even repetition, or things will crop up and give our panelists chance to sort of maybe think a bit deeper about some of the questions. So I gave our panelists some questions before today to think on, and the first one was really one of those classic questions, a sort of future prediction. And it was simply, what for them might be new developments in the future in stardom and celebrity. Where do they think the field or issues might go or grow? So that was the broad question. So if it's all right, I'll start with Sojeong, then Rio, then Jian, then Vikrant. And if there are any questions about that, just again, obviously run them through Sachin and we can just dialogue together. So Sojeong, that future prediction question, I know it's not a great question, but I was just trying to get you to think about, your own research, perhaps even in relation to where the field might go.
I think internet celebrity culture will grow in Asia. This popularity of internet celebrity, including YouTubers, might not be specific to Asia, but I think that is most noticeable phenomenon in recent days. So I want to talk about it. In a survey last year, it asked Korean elementary school students about what they want to be in the future. And the number one answer was athletes, and the second place went to teacher, and YouTuber ranked third. So it is really surprising for me because until several years ago, teachers, police officers, scientists, or doctors ranked high in this survey. And this has not changed for at least more than 10 years. But now YouTuber is on the top rank. So this is quite noticeable phenomenon. And also not only the children, but I see many Korean people say, I'm going to quit my job and open a YouTube channel. And many people actually do that because we all know that popular YouTubers earn a lot of money. While the economy is really bad in Korea now and job market is competitive, people think YouTuber is a new opportunity to become rich. And also in terms of TV industry, in the relationship between TV industry and YouTube industry, recently in Korea, most of comedy shows disappeared from TV, and comedians are working in YouTube now because just as Ms. Katayama mentioned about safe content in Japan, Korean government imposed censorship of the public broadcasting, and even in cable TV or non-public channels, the TV producers are reluctant to make a TV show featuring political jokes or dirty jokes. So it is difficult for comedians to find a stage to do what they want to do. But in YouTube, there is very little restrictions. So most of young comedians or those who want to be comedians are leaving TV industry to enter into the YouTube industry. So because they do not have to rely on all the TV industry, but they can launch their own show freely on YouTube if only they have a brilliant idea. And actually, they are gaining a lot of popularity now. So, and as you all know, COVID-19 makes internet culture more flourishes. So as long as YouTube serves as a global platform with a lot of users, I think internet celebrity culture will grow bigger and bigger in Korea or Asia.
What a thought-provoking and salient answer. Wow. They did that study in the UK a while back. And I want to be famous was the number one answer. It was, amongst, I think it was 5 to 9-year-olds in the UK, which is just a phenomenal shift. But in terms of aspiration and sort of neoliberal identity, it's quite a frightening prospect in one sense that we see everything through the myth of the media centre, as Nick Colby would call it. That's a brilliant answer. Thank you. Ria, what do you reckon for you?
So I started talking about Japanese celebrity culture specifically. So I mentioned about non-political Japanese celebrities, but due to the pandemic, a lot of celebrities started to show frustrations toward the government because the Japanese government strategy toward COVID was basically do nothing, just rely on people to wear masks. And entertainment industry was the one that, got the huge impact, and a lot of theater performances were suspended, and all that jazz that happened around the world. So then gradually celebrities started to show frustrations, but it's kind of like a slow process, but it's still a change from what it used to be before the pandemic. And since we are talking about YouTube, I want to mention that before this internet culture, if a celebrity makes one mistake, then he or she is out. For instance, if she or he had drug issue, then he is out of show business altogether. But now there is an outlet such as YouTube or Netflix that they can make comeback on Netflix because viewers pay money to see the show anyway. So there could be no advertising sponsors claiming that about their drug issues or whatever. So there are a lot of more celebrities making comeback on YouTube, even if they are dried out of show business. So I think that's kind of great that they have some space to return, especially drug issues. In Hollywood, it's not as big of a deal than in Japan, and someone like Robert Downey Jr., he always comes back. But in Japan, you had one blow and then you're out. So I think that's the difference now.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah. No, thank you. And I meant to pick up on, not to add to it, but it was a remarkable point about certain genres migrating to YouTube, like comedians, because they want to avoid sort of high level regulation. That's fascinating too. I was just made a slightly different point. It reminded me of Billie Eilish at the moment. You know, she was an old was it a tweet? It wouldn't have been a tweet, it was before then, but obviously she was, I think she was doing a racial slur. Does anyone follow that? And I was just thinking about, about whether if it had been too great for her star image, where she would have fallen. It's a rhetorical question, but I was just thinking about stars who've said something in the past and then it's brought to attention in the present, and what that means in terms of how they maintain their star status. But thank you. Vikrant, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I would just sum up, and I agree with Sojeong and Rio about the same thing, that internet-fueled celebrity culture will grow, be it film, sports, or the new breed of influencers. Traditional celebrities have to remodel themselves and appeal to the internet in a way that they are more, accessible. And many of them have actually, are now using image management specialists and online brand managers to handle their account, because they are also wanting to be politically correct, and also not to, because lots of them had to, really face the wrath of the Twitterati or on Facebook or things like that. And recently, many accounts on Twitter was closed of Indian celebrities, and even politicians. And Indian government has come under a kind of a, in a kind of a situation where they want to, really tame these online social medias in a way that their people are not, in any way harmed or not booted out the way, So, and recently also there is a new act Indian government is going to do, is the Cinematograph Act of India, which is again about, trying to look at films and online platforms and all, and to make them much more safer place for the government and not the people, kind of a thing. So yeah, it can be disputed from many. Yeah, I'm always open to debate and discuss all these things, but online media is here to stay. But I also find Bollywood stars will continue to grow. Till the time there is films, Bollywood star will have the appeal, because with the ethnoscape is so diverse, and still the Indians in the West or in Africa or in the Middle East or in Southeast Asia, they like to engage with their own media. They like to engage with their own stars. And that's why that shelf life of Bollywood stars is not going to run away soon. But what I find problematic is, as I said earlier also, the challenge will be from these low shelf life viral stars who will come and go. And for some time, they might take the limelight away from the major stars, but then they will have a long kind of a lasting impact. So yeah, those are the kind of things. And as, Mohit, I think earlier he mentioned about these OTT stars, new OTT stars. And I say those are low shelf life stars. You know about them. Manoj Bajpayee also as well. He's loved by everyone. He's very big star and everything, whatever you say. But he's not at the level of Shah Rukh Khan or Salman Khan, and you will never get that. So no matter how much you praise him critically, or Nawazuddin Siddiqui or things, stars like that, but then there is a star which is palatable to the public who want to emulate, really worship. And then there are stars that they will say, oh, he's a good actor. So there is a big difference. So it's a huge debate and discussion around this area. But yeah, that's in a way I would like to sum up. Yes, online social media will dominate, but stars will remain.
Brilliant. Well, wow, that's gorgeous last line too. And I like the way you frame it around almost like a battle for democracy, particularly in India at the moment, because it's nationalist government. So and that is immensely perplexing, but so important. Thank you so much for that. Jian?
I totally agree with what the three panelists just said. I agree with them that digital media and communication will keep transforming the celebrity cultures in Asia. So what I would like to point out about the future direction is that I think the going global of Asian celebrity and stardom will continue to grow in the future, especially celebrities in East Asian pop culture powerhouses like South Korea, Japan, and China. I think BTS is a good example to demonstrate the going global of Asian celebrities and stardom. I think this is mainly because the three East Asian pop culture powerhouses, they actually paid very high attention to the nation's soft power building and cultural diplomacy. I think this might be the same situation in India because Vikrant mentioned Bollywood's soft diplomatic power in his presentation. In East Asia, the three countries I mentioned, the government actually invested a lot in doing this kind of things to promote the country's cultural attractiveness, to build up a positive national image of the countries. And celebrities as cultural icons of the nations have been harnessed to promote the country's soft power. So I think South Korea is now leading the trend to do this because a Korean Wave as a soft power initiative has been quite successful. Japan and China are following up and learning the success of South Korea to do the same.
Wow, that's brilliant. I like the complexity of that answer, Jian. Wow, thank you so much. Sachin, any questions from the floor about for our panelists in relation to where now for celebrity? Or
we had a few questions, sir, but I think due to the paucity of time, I think we can skip the questions and I'll give the honors to you only. Take this session forward.
All right, that's good. Thank you. Anybody, before I move on to that second question, anything else from you guys, Rio, Sojeong, Jian, or Vikrant, or shall I move to the next question? I'll do that then. So our second question is going to echo back to the presentations because it's central and it's a driving energy or motive for how we understand contemporary celebrity and stardom. But it's around the difference or the relationship between the national and the transnational. And what happens, I guess, between, you know, a national formation where a star celebrity band is famous at home, and then what happens to their star image, their brand, their persona at the transnational level when they move outside of those borders? Does the star image change? What's the relationship between the national and the transnational? So it's an entangled question, but I think everybody understands roughly what I mean and where they might take the question. So I might start with Jian, then go to Rio, Sojeong, and then Vikrant last. Jian, what's your thoughts on the national and the transnational?
I think the boundary has been quite blurred at the moment because of the digital media and communication. As a migrant from China living in Australia, I think it's quite easy for me to, you know, consume pop culture and celebrity culture in China using Chinese social media. So the information I can get from my favorite Chinese celebrities is not later or less than, you know, my friends who live in China. So I think it's quite common that A-list celebrities in culturally powerful nations like South Korea, Japan, China, India, they should have transnational fame and fandom because of the, you know, the globalization of media, you know, film and entertainment industries, as well as the, you know, the digital media and communication networks. So if you look at this kind of transnational fandom, they almost happen in the online and digital media space. So there's one thing I want to bring it to attention to everyone is that I think this kind of transnational flow is not always as free as we assume. It could be influenced by geopolitics and national, cultural policies. For example, China banned K-pop bands from, emerging, on Chinese television and performing in China in 2016, just because the Chinese government opposed South Korea, signed a military agreement with the US. And also in recent years, I just mentioned that point, the Chinese government has been promoting its own homegrown idol groups to compete with, the impact of Korean wave and Japanese pop culture on Chinese young people. I think this kind of, geopolitics and policy issues will set some restrictions on the, the seemingly free transnational flow of, celebrities and celebrity culture.
Brilliant answer, great case study too, or illustration. And you're right, that's such a great answer. Rio, how about you? Thank you.
I agree with Jian that the boundaries between national and transnational has been blurred, and a lot more crossover, intimate crossovers happening across the world. And previously, the success in the US industry was seen as the ultimate goal for all the entertainers, but it's not that, it's not the only goal anymore. If you can achieve success in Asia, that's great too. And also but then the term national didn't become invalid, because the term national has been brought up whenever occasionally brought up with nationalistic tone at the international setting when the celebrity gets claimed as a national being. And here I want to mention about the star in Minari who plays the grandma, Yeon Yoo-jung. And she said that she didn't like the pressure she felt as the whole country's pride depended on her winning an Oscar. And she said, it's not like I'm representing the country, it's not like I'm going to the Olympics. So, when you actually face that kind of international, awards or that kind of, international match or something, then suddenly you are representing the country. So then I think there's a tension between the term national and transnational, and sometimes national can be used for, the country's convenience, really.
That's a brilliant example too, and beautifully expressed. I was just thinking of the term burden of representation, which is often used in critical race theory to talk about the way that Black Americans in particular are housed or framed within paradigms in which they have to stand for all people. Fascinating, I think that's a really good example too. Thank you. Sojeong, what's your thoughts on this?
First, I also totally agree with the previous two panelists' opinion that the distinction between national and the transnational has been blurred. And this is definitely due to globalization of culture through media. And as Jian said, Asian stars go global. This distinction is more blurred in Asia, not only on the regional level, but on the global level. And one thing I find interesting in Korea is that transnational stardom of Korean stars seems to strengthen their national stardom. I talked about the meaning of K in my talk, and this K has double layers of meaning. So when you say K something like K-pop and K-drama, it presupposes transnationality. For example, we do not call any Korean drama K-drama, but K-drama means Korean dramas that are consumed by foreign audience across the nations. So K basically indicates transnationality, but at the same time, this transnationality is transformed into a very national idea or national emotions. For example, BTS is the most successful transnational star from Korea, and because of their transnational recognition, Koreans consider them as a national hero. So the BTS arouses the kind of patriotism among Korean audience, and we call these kinds of transnational Korean stars as "Do you know club?" It means when Korean meets foreigners, the most conversation goes like this: "Nice to meet you. I'm from Korea. Do you know Psy or do you know BTS?" So we call this kind of people "Do you know club?" So as real as the Yoon Yeojung from Minari, who won the Oscar, has just joined the Do you know club. So we can now say Do you know Yoon Yeojung in other countries. So people are proud of these transnational stars, and this is actually national pride. So I think Korea is a very small country, and it has not been long that Korea has been recognized by other countries, especially Western countries, maybe 20 years or so. Thus, people would love to find out how transnationally successful stars, transnationally successful national stars are recognized in other countries. So therefore, the transnational celebrities are the most national celebrities, ironically, I think.
That is an outstanding answer. Wow. Thank you for that. It was, I think complexities of that, particularly around K-pop, are just incredibly rich and immense, but also rewarding to think on. Thank you. Vikrant, this is actually going to be the last bit of the session, because I've just got to wind up. So if you just very quickly, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, again, I agree with everyone that national and transnational are blurring, and you don't know. In India's case, I rather find it very curious, because almost all the films are very national. Because if you look at the pan-Indian Hindi cinema, which dominated till 90s, it was all about getting the eyeballs across India. And it was only in 90s that your regional cinemas were always there, but regional cinemas started claiming their space out there. So they also became quite strong, and they also went into transnational, be it Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, and other regional cinemas, or they're as some of them are as strong as the mainstream Hindi cinema as well. And through that also the new kind of breed of cinemas, such as the English films, which were the mix of Hindi and English films, or the urban center oriented kind of films, those were there. So generally, if I have to start looking at that national cinema, I always find that, Akshay Kumar becomes a national cinema kind of a star, whereas Shah Rukh Khan becomes more of a global star, because Akshay Kumar is trying to promote, government-oriented, kind of agendas, be it being Indian, or making toilet at in villages and things like that. So the agendas of government is reflected, or the pride that Indians should have in sending a spacecraft to Mars or things like that. Those are picked up by him. So he's the highest earning star, yet he is not a transnational star. But if you look at transnationalism going along with the Indian diaspora, then that's different. And that's where the Indian films are, it's big within the Indian diaspora, but it is still not cutting across the global platform. They are applauded for their global presence, but not for their transnational kind of storytelling. So for transnational kind of storytelling, still we look at films like Slumdog Millionaire or Hotel Mumbai, or look at film like Lunchbox, which probably is the most transnational kind of a film. So those are the things. So there are really interesting discussions around this. And the lines, as I said, it is blurred. You just don't see. And again, you have to also look at the growing Indian diaspora. Like in Australia also, now we have got more than 700,000 Indians in Australia. In 2005, where films were being released in 5 screens, now any ordinary films are getting around 60 to 70 screens in Australia. So there is a huge growth. But if you look at the audience, 95% are Indian or South Asian audience, only 5% Australian audience. So there are these interesting kind of things that they are making money, they are doing that. There is a transnational flow, but how much? So that's another question which we always have to think about.
Well, that's a standing answer too. Well, that brings us to an end of our session. I've been absolutely sort of bowled over by answers. It's been rich, rewarding, and perplexing. If I could extend my warm, heartfelt thanks to Vikrant, Sojeong, Rio, and Jian. If we could give them a round of applause, stick your hands up. But well done. Come on. Thank you so much. I had asked them to let me know who their favorite Asian star was, but we'll leave that. Mine is Shah Rukh Khan, and I don't care what any of you say. Thanks again, Ambrish. Thanks, Sachin, for helping chair and we're running a beautiful session, and to Ashika, and I can't see the other person's name, sorry, Hani, introducing us. We really do appreciate it. Rio, you need to go to bed now, but as soon as you put your head to the pillow, your baby will wake and you will be up all night. That is what parenting is. All right, take care, guys. Thank you. See you.
Yes.
I want to thank all our esteemed panelists for giving us such an insightful session. I think who exactly the 21st century's transnational Asian celebrities, I don't think we could have asked for a more comprehensive session. Thank you. I would now like to request Professor Dr. Sushmita Bala, Head DME Media School, to please deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sachin. It was indeed a very interesting session. Cinema and celebrity is a glamorous factor in India and Asian countries. Thanks, Rio, for apprising us about Japanese celebrity culture. Thanks, Wang, for telling us about trends in South Korea. Thanks, Jian, for informing us about Chinese celebrity culture. Thanks, Dr. Vikrant Kishore, for providing us academic understanding of Indian celebrity world. And a big thanks to Sean for conceiving and presenting this session. Thank you. Thanks to all present here.
Now I would like to request Professor Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, to please give us the closing remarks.
Thank you, Sachin. It was really a very interesting session, and I was listening to each and everybody, and so many new dimensions were revealed. But I would like simply add here, the credit goes for this session goes to Sean, and the whole panel was supported by his organization, that is Asian Media and Cultural Studies Network. I also acknowledge the contribution that was made to this session by Dr. Vikrant Kishore, and the network that he has mooted, that is Australia India Film Practitioners and Researchers Network. And it is again worth mentioning here, this ICAN, right from ICAN4, is being created with the help of Deakin University, Melbourne. And it's an integrated project, it's a joint project. That is how we have come all the way long. And this is not the only thing that we are doing with Deakin University. The CIFI, the Cineasta International Film Festival, that also 2 editions have been done by DME in collaboration with the Deakin University, Australia. So I acknowledge the support and the contribution of Deakin University and Dr. Vikrant Kishore in both of these ventures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to thank Professor Sean Redmond, Ms. Rio Katayama, Dr. Vikrant Kishore, Dr. Sojeong Park, and Dr. Jian for this astounding discussion on such a remarkable topic. Thank you so much. I would like to extend my gratitude to Professor Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, Convener ICAN4, and Professor Dr. Sushmita Bala, Head DME Media School, Chief Associate Convener ICAN4, for the ideation and planning of all the sessions. I would like to thank Dr. Manasvi Maheshwari, Ms. Manmeet Kaur, Ms. Shruti V.S., Mr. Mohit Kishore Bhatt, Ms. Mudita Raj, and Mr. Pramod Kumar Pandey for the constant support and guidance. A heartfelt thanks to Mr. Ritik Ghosh, Mr. Sumantra Sarthi Das, Mr. Sachin Nair, and Mr. Yogesh Sharma for managing the overall digital operations in ICAN4. I would like to thank our newsletter team comprising both students and faculty members, namely Ms. Sukriti Arora and Dr. Teenam Bora, for constantly supervising and mentoring everyone. And I would also like to thank Mr. Mohammed Kamil and Ms. Krishna Pandey for working around the clock in all the press proceedings. You can keep a check on our press proceedings on the official Facebook page of ICAN. I would also like to thank Mr. Anmol Mehta from our DME family and Mr. Sumohit Nirala From one of our knowledge partners, KR Manglam University's end, for tirelessly working in making our events look more beautiful digitally with the help of their prolific designs. I would also like to thank our entire team, all faculty members and students who have worked day and night facing all the challenges and obstacles of the pandemic to make this conference happen. Lastly, I would like to request all the participants who joined this session and our audience for being here and contributing. Dear participants, I request you to please take out a minute and fill the feedback form through the link provided in the chat box. Your every feedback matters.
Don't forget to visit DME website and ICAN4 micro website for any or all details. Stay tuned for the upcoming sessions. Next, we have our fourth technical session on OTT and web series in the face of COVID-19 pandemic and lockdowns at 10:30 a.m. IST, followed by a masterclass on digitalization and broadcast media by RK Singh at 2 p.m. IST. Moreover, we have a panel discussion on technological innovations and the future of media education at 6 p.m. IST. See you all there. Till then, I, Hani Khurana.
And I, Ishika Wadhwa.
Take your leave. Have a great day, you all.